So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Sickest show. It's episode 2 of Chronic Illness in Practice with Nick Perro and my good friend Soso. And today we're joined by special guest Descent in Bloom. Um, and as you all heard at the beginning, she's a writer. She does a lot on here on Substack. Her work is incredible. If you do not follow her yet, hit that subscribe button in the top corner and please do subscribe to her. Her work is really impressive. She's a nurse. She talks about the nursing field and a lot of stuff going on in that, as well as just humanitarian subjects in general. And her work is really powerful. So I please ask everyone, go subscribe to her. Descent, do you mind introducing yourself for everyone?
Yeah. Hi. So I go by Descent or Descent in Bloom. It's obviously a pseudonym, just for privacy purposes. I started writing earlier this year. Just noticed there was so much going on in the world that wasn't really being connected or talked about, or we would get like half stories. They kind of just assumed we knew the whole thing. And that's where I started. But I joined this show today because I've talked about my health struggles some, but a lot of people don't realize I have a lot of health stuff going on. And Nick had invited me to talk about chronic illnesses because that's something that needs to be discussed more. And that's something that I suffer from. And I'm sure many in the audience do as well. Thank you, Kat. I could see some of the comments. I've got them on my phone, but I can see the comments popping up. Thank you, Kat.
Yeah, and I'll interject too if there's any questions that come up. Everybody knows, like, please, good morning, everyone, as you come in. Please ask questions throughout. I'm in the chat. I may not respond the whole time, but I am looking to make sure if there's questions that come up. And so, yeah, go read Descent stuff. Her stuff is fucking awesome. And one of the things that drew me in was you responded to a piece of mine at one point that I dropped in your subscriber chat. It was one of the poems I put in there, and you're like, I think you're like, yep, this sounds right. Like that sucks. And I knew you I knew you knew when the response was just so simple. And I know you don't always talk about your conditions and what you go through on a personal side, but can you introduce yourself, some of like what you go through on a daily basis, or what maybe even in
um,
general if you don't want to go too
so
specific into it?
I actually don't mind talking specifics because it's so complex and complicated. I don't want to overwhelm people, but I have two, well, one for sure that I know of. The other one, they're still trying to find a gene link to it. But I have what's called hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, as well as an LMNA mutation, which has put me into an early heart failure. Um, I'm 28 years old, and I always joke that I have the body of a 7-year-old. My coworkers actually make fun of me because when I go to get up, I have to like brace myself and do the same things we teach our patients how to safely get up because of just their comorbidities and things. Um, so because of my Ehlers-Danlos, I have early spinal arthritis, as well as I was born with spinal stenosis just because I'm not a very big person. I'm not even 5 foot tall. I'm not going to stand for scale, but I'm not. I was born small and I've always been small. So I have spinal stenosis as well as what's turned into arthritis just from the stenosis and the hypermobility. You can actually, this can freak people out, but you can see things bend in ways that they shouldn't in my body. A lot of people don't do this without intentionally doing it, but I've realized how much pain it's caused and just breakdown on the tissues and the joints around in that area over time. And that causes chronic pain for me. I actually get spinal injections every 3 months. I also have chronic migraines because my neck bends in ways it shouldn't. So I get Botox every 3 months. I get stabbed a lot.
Yeah. I don't mean to laugh. I laugh in not in like jest, or I snuff in jest
Humor
because
is
I know.
how I deal with
Yeah.
things. So if I don't laugh, I'll cry, right?
Yeah.
Um, as well as because of the hypermobility, whatever gene is connected with that, I have chronic hives, so I have to get a shot called Xolair every 3 months, or no, every month now. I think it is. They're still figuring it out, my insurance, but it's like to basically so that I'm not constantly itchy, and it sucks because it's like when it rains, it pours, and these conditions they flare. And not only am I dealing with having chronic heart failure, possibly getting an implanted defibrillator and all the things that come with that, I also have chronic pain and just general discomfort in my day-to-day life. But I'm young, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're young, you're healthy, because they see only on the outside, they don't actually see what someone goes through I'm sure you know with fibro and physical illness is what they call it.
Mhm.
So sorry, I
Well,
ran.
no, no, I'm glad you do. That's one of the reasons I brought you on was so that you can rant too. Is part of this is getting it out is we all need to talk about it. Like, at least in my opinion, I need to keep talking about it because if I don't know who else really is, at least I don't see a lot of men talking about fibro and having chronic illnesses. I think a lot of men are lied to in that you're young, you're healthy, you look healthy, you're just faking it, just like
Mm,
you have gotten. It doesn't seem to be a young male issue or a young woman issue. It seems to just be a person issue is doctors don't like believing us. And I don't even know if it's doctors that specifically don't want to believe us. But but maybe the system itself. But I don't know. I'm not in the system and I only experience on the outside.
There's so many. My there's so many factors. I'm sorry to keep interjecting. I also have
No, please
ADHD.
do.
Disclosure. Something I've noticed, at least on the healthcare side, is even before everything that's been happening this year has happened, the healthcare system is chronically overwhelmed. And that's not to make excuses. That's not to say that they're okay to dismiss you, but they get I think they're overwhelmed in their workload. And a lot of times patients aren't getting the care or attention that they need because these physicians and providers are just so maxed out. Like, I mean, I'm sure, even trying to schedule a primary care appointment anymore, it's like pulling teeth. And I've seen it from the inside, and we really are overwhelmed. And a lot of people, I'm not saying that it makes it okay, but I'm just saying I get it. As someone that also deals with chronic illness, I try to advocate because I've been on the other side of that.
Yeah.
I'm stocky and short. I'm not super skinny. I'm not morbidly obese. I'm like somewhere between. But because I'm not under a certain BMI, I've always had doctors write me off like, "Oh, your palpitations, your shortness of breath. It's anxiety, or you need to lose weight." I'm sure almost every woman in the audience can relate to that. You told that at some point, or men in the audience, and it turns out, I'm actually in premature heart failure, but it was dismissed for so long because I'm young and I'm healthy, and a lot of people they just didn't have the time, or maybe some of them just didn't care, but to look into my issues.
Can I ask you a question, Descent? I was wondering, just to make sure I understand correctly. So you are a registered nurse, and so right now, are you working or are you like at home or?
I do. I still work, and it is it's honestly horrible in my body. I'm looking for something new. I'm looking for something work from home. Obviously, I make some kind of income from my Substack, but I'm a mom. I have young kids. I have a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 12-year-old.
My
I'm single
God!
mom. So I
Wow! I
obviously
mean,
can't just stop working. I'm trying to find something work from home trying to find something that's ethical, that's not working for an insurance company denying claims is difficult. So I am still working. That's why I have to get all these shots and take all these different medications. I live off of a leaf. I'm surprised I don't have a stomach ulcer at this point.
but you're working full time with your condition.
Yeah, 36 hours a week.
Oh my
Thankfully, I have
God!
intermittent FMLA if I really need it for my migraines. Only a couple of days a month, but I do have some padding there as needed.
So, are you a ER nurse? I don't want to get too specifics into your job if you don't want to, because I don't want you to out yourself in any way. Um,
Okay, I've gotten to the point where I assume at some point I will probably be doxxed. I'm not going to do it to myself, but
yeah.
I'm not an ER nurse. I work in a step down ICU or an intermediate care unit. I care for people that are not sick enough for like a regular med surge floor, but not quite sick enough to be in the ICU. Typically, that requires you can like get sedated or on like medications that keep your blood pressure up, called vasopressors, things like that. I'm in between. So, and I also work on the neuro floor for my hospital, so I deal a lot with like stroke patients, seizure patients, anything neurological as well.
Oh, okay. Um, I was so in that line, because you were talking about like just overburdened and overwhelmed systems, and we all know the systems are overburdened and overwhelmed in the states. And for where you're at, are you seeing early signs of what the big bullshit bill is going to bring to the healthcare system? Are there doctors
Yeah,
and nurses and folks leaving already?
people are rationing medication, people are rationing insulin, people are not picking up things, they're not going to follow-ups because they can't afford it, they don't have insurance. I've had a lot of patients, especially this isn't even just big people, but like Hispanic patients come in and they're terrified to even seek healthcare. So they wait until they're on their death's door to come in and
Mm.
just look so sick.
That
Or
is so.
and it's sad because a lot of times they're coming to my floor with a stroke and they waited too long and now their deficits are permanent because they were scared to come in. Um, as well as just people rationing medications, people not taking their blood pressure medications, coming in with insane blood pressures. I'm surprised if they didn't have a stroke, things like that. I used to, before I was a nurse, I was medical assistant. I worked in a federally qualified healthcare center, which is what a lot of when it was a low income clinic. And I did that for years, and that's why I can already, I'm able to speak on even outpatient being overburdened because that's what I did.
Okay. That's Thank you for
This,
all you do. Like, just thank you for all you do, because I'm
yeah.
assuming you worked during COVID too, because you're old enough to have,
I worked in a nursing home during COVID. I was a CNA.
oh, I'm sorry.
Oh
I'm
my
sorry.
God.
Because I know how hard that hit nursing homes in
That must have been
the elder
brutal.
community. Um, so
Yeah,
with,
my chronic hive started after I had COVID. So
oh, great. Just, just great. And now it's going to be harder to get the COVID vaccine pretty much everywhere in the country. It's going to be harder to get all sorts of needed vaccines, MMR, the childhood pregnancy vaccines, the prenatal ones, they're all starting to be recommended against from a federal level.
we give Tdap during pregnancy because infants can't get it until they're 6 months old, and that if they get any of those viruses or illnesses during early childhood, it's very likely to kill them. That's the pregnancy vaccine. We give tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis, Tdap, to pregnant women. I used to work in OB. That was my outpatient job, and that's federally low income. But yeah, it's sad, and
What
it,
if,
it pisses me
yeah,
off. um,
yeah, unleash
just
on it a little, how you feel. Just please
I'm sick
let
and
yourself
tired.
vent.
I am sick and tired of a man with no medical background, a privileged man who grew up selling
Oh,
drugs to other people, and he has no idea how any of this works, gets his information from fucking, excuse my language, YouTube videos or wherever he's getting his information from, coming in and trying to change things he doesn't know anything about. Like this
mm,
Tylenol causing autism shit, that's killing me because I'm autistic and they're just perpetuating eugenics at this point. And I'm like, oh my
mm.
fucking God. That goes into the whole thing. I think it's a trio of like neurodivergence, AD, my hypermobility, all that. And it doesn't matter. I'm big into research, as you can tell. And I'm
The
just
thing
so
is,
sick of it.
I
But
totally hear you because I find that it's just the lack of the lack of consciousness, or sorry, awareness that people have on how important it is to actually look. Because people are like, oh, don't worry about it. I'm going to do my own research. It's like, what? It's like Dr. Google, Dr. Chat GPT. I mean, it's like these, I mean, and that's why I find like, these references when it comes to scientific study, people don't realize how, they are actually important because it's actually, I don't want to say, well, most likely it's proven. Like they'll have, it's not like, oh, I've seen this on the site, and yeah, I hear Tylenol's bad for you because people are discussing Tylenol in the chat. Like some sort of like painkillers are gonna be, and even then, I mean, it's like one of the safest, medicine you can take, and then. This is something that I find extremely frustrating as someone who's trained in science, but I can't even imagine how pissed off I would be, like you were to describe, if I was working like right in this, like not only is it hard to do your job, like in the health sector, but now you've got to fight all the disinformation when you meet patient coming in, they must be like telling you loads of crap. Like you're like,
yeah.
so much time you must be spending like just,
Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm fixing my chair. Got caught on my rug.
No, no.
Yeah, no, I've had a younger girl. She was special needs, and her family was the one caring for her. And she was there with, unfortunately, breakthrough seizures. We just needed to change her medication regimen. But her family was like, "Yeah, my sister said something about ivermectin." I'm like, "Don't do that. Don't give that to your child. Don't do that." And it's just so hard because there's so much disinformation, or people are scared of things, or we offer like pneumonia vaccines and things like that. Because a lot of our patients, they have a lot of comorbidities. We have a lot of older patients coming in, and they have increased risk of complications from getting severe pneumonia and things like that. And we'll get so many people that are like, "Oh, well, I'm not getting that because I read online this or because of this." And Googling something isn't the same if you don't know how to read peer reviewed research and actually know what you're looking into. You can fall for anything. I could go in
Mhm.
there, write a dissertation about like, oh, let's say Burt's Bees lip balm pissed me off. I could make up some bullshit, make it sound scientific about how bad this is, but that's not true. And people need to realize like not all sources are credible. And I would say the government, like the NIH used to be credible, but that's not credible anymore either because now they're purging things, and it's just such an unprecedented thing as a healthcare professional. We're all terrified of what's to come.
Oh,
So,
I go
what are
ahead,
you
Nick.
doing? What are you doing on your own side to prepare yourself for it? Because you're
Trying to get out the bed.
immunocompromised.
I'm trying to get off the bedside so that I'm not exposed to people as much. I would really like something where I can work from home. I've looked into work from home jobs. I'm applying for them. I just expanded my license to multi-state so that I can do that. It's just a matter of finding something. Thankfully, if worst case scenario, I got to the point where I really could not be in that situation anymore, I would more than likely just focus a lot more on my, platform. I obviously care about my platform and I work on it, but it's something I do outside of my full-time job. I would just likely try to do this full time and probably write more.
Well, in that vein, everybody in the audience, please make sure you are subscribed to Descent and Bloom. And if you can, become a paid subscriber for her. Help her become a full-time writer. Help her get out of this. Help her at least become a more part-time writer so she doesn't have to work her ass off and kill herself in the pursuit of a job. Um, because that's a real risk for you, isn't it? Is possibly dying on the job because you're overworking yourself and overstressing yourself.
We just had a nurse die 2 weeks ago at my job. Like I just went to his funeral on Friday. We are still waiting on the autopsy, of course, but he was someone that worked 5 days a week. And I told my 12-hour shifts because him and his wife were building a house. They had 4 young children. He was only 34 and he died at work. He
I'm
went to
so
go
sorry.
They went to go check on him and he was just not responsive. They're assuming he went in some kind of cardiac arrest. And it's because of this, I'm like, I have to get out of here. I'm not going to die here.
Yeah, it's I know that experience, not that specific experience, but I know that idea of not wanting to die at a job or for a job or on a job because I worked almost 100 hours a week for like a month and a half, like 80 plus almost 100 hours, and it was not sustainable. Like I was killing myself for a job, and you we shouldn't. We've been tricked into believing that we have to do it because we're the only ones who can, or because we have to give all of ourselves to these jobs or something.
Or manipulation of empathy. I feel like that's a big one, especially in a lot of the fields that we work. They know that we care and they use our empathy against us. Funny, you hear all about like, oh, empathy exploit when people like Elon Musk say that people are using other people's empathy to get what they want. But honestly, that's something that they're doing and that evil people would do, like employers. Like, well, something we hear all the time as a nurse, you're expected to come in and work understaffed, put yourself and your patients at risk because you have too many patients with too many needs and trying to juggle all that is impossible. But they're like, oh, well, what about your team? If you're not here, what's your team going to do? Because it's going to be worse for them. And it just creates this environment where you're expected to work yourself to death for a job. And it's at the end of the day, unfortunately, as I've seen with my coworker, they'll have your job posting up for the week is over. So it's just not worth it. Don't kill yourself for a job. I will say that.
No, don't kill yourself for a job. And I got a question in the chat from a friend of both my show and Banner and Backbone is from Rachel is, have we added you to Banner and Backbone yet? We haven't actually reached out to you about that. But and I won't offer specifically right now because I got to talk to my co-founders about it.
I don't even know what that
But
is.
the idea,
So,
yeah,
but
I'll tell you
yeah.
about it. Banner and Backbone is a civic-based publication that I started with Lawrence Winterman and Frederick Pogue, and we've partnered with folks like Ellie Leonard, Melissa Corrigan. I don't know if you know Ellie. She does investigative journalism work. She's doing all the deep dives into the Epstein Black Book and Birthday Book and the Big Beautiful Bill, and she's incredible at what she does. And then Melissa Corrigan's a vet, Navy vet, who she does a whole bunch of amazing work. And one of the things she's actually starting is a program, or working on starting a program called the 1A Collective, which is the First Amendment Collective.
Told me something about that. I didn't
I
even
may
look
have
into
tagged you in it.
it. Someone did, and I was like, "Oh, what is this?" I didn't have time to look into it, but I seen something about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so you should definitely. I'll tag you. I'll send you some info about it, and link you to Melissa if you're not already linked with her. And we work with others like Shane Urich, Walter Ryan, Jacob Summers is working with us in a lot of ways. So different people in different parts of the fields, and what we're trying to do is bring a collected group of people together to make a really like focused civic platform where people can get trustworthy and honest news sources and media, people talking about health. And like you and Jacob would get along really well. He talks a lot about RFK and
RFK is
he's
my personal enemy at this
oh,
point.
you and Jacob would get along really well. He's trying to work on branding himself right now as the anti-RFK. He's big into the fitness area, and he's really trying to break that Maha bullshit that's overtaken in the grift cycle that's become so prevalent in everything that they do, and turning health into just a grifted subscription or grifted platform where somebody else makes money and you don't actually get anything out of it. Um, I'd love to connect you with Jacob. I think you two would have some fun discussions and writings. He's a really good writer too. It was actually what he used to do, was writing and journalism work. So I think you two would get along. But Banner and Backbone is sort of our home where we're putting this all together, and our own little like localized version of maybe a Midas Touch or a Siren project. We're smaller creators still, but we can band together because there's a million topics for a million voices.
Mm.
And
This
things
sounds
like this.
like a civic press kind of thing.
Yeah.
I have a friend who actually went to school for like political science, and she started a Substack account, the only one called Civic Press. I'm like, what the hell is a Civic Press? I looked it up, and that almost sounds like what you guys are doing.
Yeah, kind of like that. And like Melissa writes a set of papers called the New Papers, very Thomas Paine style, civic-based content. Lawrence is a sci-fi writer, and is actually serializing a novel that's a near future dystopian America that he's trying to beat the happening by writing it down and make sure it doesn't happen.
There was a supernatural stuff like that where they were reading their own stories. Sorry, it's a TV show for anyone
No,
who
I
doesn't
love Supernatural.
know.
Watched
I
it
remember
too.
that one too.
My
But I
daughter
think
wants
you
to get a tattoo, a supernatural tattoo. Or something.
Hey,
It's in
tell
the
him to hit me
culture.
up. We can go and get it together because I would love to have a CL tattoo.
and well, who's your favorite, Sammy or Dean?
Oh, that's hard.
What were you asking?
Well, either.
I
I
Both.
really like
Cass
Dean.
I think I know it's not Sam Redeem, but Cass is honestly my favorite. I honestly love parts of both of them. But I probably would have to say Dean.
Okay.
Yeah, we like
Okay.
it, bad boy. Is that
I
it?
just I just like that Sammy's like 7 feet tall and just like his real person is super tall. And so they have to shoot the the shows on like he's on like different elevations so that they can be the same height because the guy
That's
who
fun.
plays Dean is rather short too. Um, and so yeah, it's that box trick. But anyway, we get ourselves on tangents now. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think you'd really enjoy getting to see some of what we're doing on Banner and Backbone, and we may start cross posting some of your pieces because they're very relevant and timely anyway. And we want to get more views and visibility to those who create really good content. Um, and I know I like your content, and everybody in the audience seems to, with the amount of hearts coming in, the amount of people showing up. Um, so I just want you to know you're not alone. And if your dream is to be able to work from home, or not dream, but forced onto you, dream is to be able to work from home now so that you can not die at work.
That's not the
We'd
plan.
like to help. We'd like to help however we can.
Somebody said in the chat, Nick, sorry, you've probably thought about that already. This is me saying this, but I thought it was also good to point out that what about telehealth as a nurse? Could you do telehealth?
So I'm not a nurse practitioner. I'm just a registered nurse. I won't be able to see patients on a telehealth basis, but I could do something like case management where I'm essentially it's basically the same thing. And that's some of the roles I'm applying for. But right now, especially work from home for nurses is super saturated because no one wants to work at the bedside. We're tired of being abused. So it's
Mm.
just a matter of finding a spot.
So, what are other types of things that you could do to help? Like, what do you do now? I guess would be a better question to help manage your stress and your anxiety and your symptoms so that therapy.
Um,
Okay,
I
that's fair.
actually had therapy today. I just started seeing him. He's a doll. Because I've had so much stuff going on, but then when my coworker passed away, I just saw him for the first time last week. I was like, that was so close to home for me because that's literally my biggest fear of that happening to me. And for him to die on our unit at my job was like, oh my God. And I was not even trying to make it about myself because that's not me, but it was also really close to home. And that was my wake up call that there's a lot that I've been dealing with and dealing with keeping it all in, that stress isn't helpful. So I started to see a therapist. Therapy helps. Writing is actually one of my bigger outlets. A lot of people get worried because I'm always on here working, writing, things like that. But I enjoy what I do. And writing, even if it's not about like my specific things that are going on, it's almost like a form of positive escapism because I'm turning it into something good.
Yeah, that's
Um,
important.
yeah. As well as just my work. Like when I put my effort into things that matter to me, that helps me deal with stress. That's actually how I de-stress. I enjoy creating, I enjoy doing, I run my nonprofit as well. That's something I've had to scale back on, just like in-person events, but just putting effort into good things and seeing good things come from my efforts is the most therapeutic thing for me to decrease my stress.
I have so much admiration. I mean, you're describing everything you're doing. And sometimes, you know how it is when we talk to other people, we can't help but thinking of ourselves. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how could I? I mean, what you're doing, there's no way I could do like a third of that. I mean, it's like,
I think that's the
whoa.
ADHD too. That kind of helps. It's a little.
Oh my gosh. I
I
mean,
always say
I have to tell you, I'm so impressed. And why am I saying this? Because, it's also because sometimes I know to a certain degree, it has to do with being perseverant. I find like, sorry if you know what I mean. Like, and by the way, I'm sorry, I speak French, so that's why I'm like always looking for my words.
no. I love it. I actually adore your accent. I've always been obsessed with just French culture, language, everything in general. So you are fine.
Okay, thank you. But I find that people say, I don't know what you guys think, but it's also, let's say you have cancer. Sometimes doctors will say like, it's all here. Like, yes, you're fighting, your body is fighting, but what will help you cross to the other side, I mean, meaning getting better, is trying to keep a positive outlook on things, which is very hard when you're stressed because that's usually, when you get, more depressed, and being depressed kind of like stops you from doing all those things. So I find that um, you sound like you must have a positive outlook on things despite all these um, hardship that you're going through, being physically, I don't, maybe the word is too strong, but being physically impaired because,
Yeah,
you
no, I
have
will
to get all
100%
these.
to say. Yeah, no, you were correct. It's I feel like one of my biggest things is I just want to leave this world a better place than I found it. If
Mhm.
I were to die tomorrow, at the end of the day, when people look back at the things that I did and what I said, do I want to be remembered as someone that I don't want to say didn't do anything, but do I want to be remembered as someone who was just kind of complicit and compliant and just didn't really try? Or do I want to be remembered as someone who made the world a better place? And I want to be someone that made the world a better place. It's how I've always been, even when I was younger. So,
Uh,
I
I
I
hear
think
you so
that's
much.
I think that's one of the reasons that folks like RFK don't like people who are ADHD or autistic or have a neurodivergence in some way is we have a really high sense of justice and morality. And we internalize and externalize right from wrong really
Young.
young. And it's
Hmm.
really hard to move those morals because we see and we know and we just inherently on a personal like human level know like that is wrong. Um, and we fight really hard against it. Yeah, dyslexia is a neurodivergence. In fact, it's a really unique neurodivergence. Um, and I've heard it described as instead of being able to like because it switches things in the way that you process in your written language, reading and your writing, you actually have a much better sense of visual acuity for like your mind's eye, and you can picture three-dimensional shapes, and you
Yeah.
actually see your brain goes in video rather than text-based. And so some people actually, the question for you guys, what do your brains do? Do you tend to see your thoughts or picture them more as like words?
Oh,
so
definitely. Go ahead.
don't have an imagination. I cannot picture anything in my brain. If you told me to close my eyes and picture an apple, I can't picture an apple, but it's so funny because I'm very creative, like externally, but if you try to get me to picture something in my head, it doesn't happen.
So what about you?
Oh my God. I've always been um, it's all images, but words too. It's kind of bizarre because it's since I've been young and, well, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but because it sounds of like, a little bit, well, um, I don't want to be arrogant, but I've always looked for, what was wrong with me, I guess. But
Well, that's
I
nice.
went to choose to be evaluated at a private clinic, and it turns out I'm twice exceptional, which means that I am gifted. But because of the way I grew up and my very like I was in an environment that helped to kind of um, make sure that those that ease with intellectual content, and because I really see, I mean, when I was little, I mean, I was 4. This is only my mom told me like last week. Like I would sit down with my grandmother, and my mom would read me like books, like Disney books. um, and then my grandmother one day she came and was like, "Okay, come on, grandma, I'm gonna read you a book." And she's like, "What?" Anyway, my mom's like, so I was looking at the book. I mean, I don't remember, but I read the whole book. Like, but I had memorized everything. So it's like for me, I would memorize old text, but also images. But then the reason I'm saying I'm twice exceptional is because I also have like I used to have what was called a major depressive recurrent and a high anxiety, but it turns out that now I'm under investigation for complex PTSD, which is really just the way that sometimes you'll end up just dealing with your emotions. You're just it's emotions regulation, and that has to do with being exposed to stress for a very, very long period of time, but not in a one incident. Like for example, like you're faced to one death and then something happens, or it's more like you've been exposed to traumatic abuse in a close relationship, most likely with your parents. So that's under investigation. But just to go back to my brain, it connects everything. I have like this sort of like web, and it's like tick, 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 and I see patterns.
Same. Yeah, pattern recognition is, and I think that kind of goes back to neurodivergence. That's a really big thing. And CPTSD, that's something I feel like needs to be looked into and talked about more, because I feel like that's something a lot of Americans deal with as well.
Oh yeah,
Especially
you're right.
just,
I mean,
everyone has traumatic childhoods at this point, and not everyone, but a large majority of the population. Unfortunately, we've had a mental health crisis, as I'm sure you've heard, for years, and people that are suffering from mental illness, unfortunately, a lot of times unintentionally will pass this on to their children because they never learn how to deal with it themselves, and it just creates a cycle.
honestly, I totally hear you, and I am 100% on you with you on this, because it sort of feels like this is what happened in my family and so many families. Because in Quebec, French Canadians, we were like, just my grandfather was a farmer, so working very long hours. My dad left when he was 15, and you're kind of basically raising yourself, and all these traumas that you have, you try to not repeat them with your children, but at the same time, this is how you were raised. If somebody screams at you, and eventually you end up screaming back, and it just escalates. And that's exactly what I've read. There's a site for complex PTSD. It's like so many problems would be, well, I don't want to say solved, but there would be much lesser mental health crisis if, we would start from the start, like just, make sure that people end up basically there are risk factors, and being in an abusive environment, you're gonna most likely end up having problems. And then if you have problems, and it's kind of like a vicious cycle. So what you're describing is definitely something that was that they address in those there's a CPTSD foundation. I believe it is based in the US, because this is, so far, it's not something that's recognized in the DSM, the DSM, which is the Diagnostic for Statistical Manual for mental illnesses and disorders that the psychiatrists use to make diagnosis. But it is recognized in the other, which is like used in Europe. And I'm sorry, I can't remember the name. And it's ICM, I believe. It's another manual. So even there, from the West to Europe, and towards even in Australia, I was reading a book from a man that's was raised in Australia, and that's how he described, and he actually wrote another book about that. I can actually find it while you go on, and I'll put the link in, because that book really hit home when I started reading it. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is just like, and this is so important, because that's what I try to do with my daughter. It's just, the thing is, what I also realized, you're talking about therapy, is that when we become aware, when we take a step back, that this is how we react because of processes and, things that have happened to us, then we kind of like gain more control on how we can change our reactions. And those reactions will in turn have an effect on our children. So yeah, it's
Yes.
a long-term work.
Yeah. And we're living through, like Descent, you said, and we've been living through years of collective trauma. Um, I think in the US, they talk about it on Really America. Some of the uh, psychologists that go on there, they talk about it with Shrinking Trump, is that we're living in a collective psychosis. And I think
What do you do?
that,
That's the word for
and,
it. Mhm.
and we're
Madness
fucked.
too.
Yeah, like we're just being attacked all the time and abused by this, not just Trump. It started out as Trump, and well, it started out as the manifestation of as Trump. Um, because it wasn't always Trump. He was always just a symbol on top of the hatred. He just helped galvanize it. But I think we've all been collectively beat and abused for the last 10 plus years now, into this trauma response, and we're tearing our health system apart in the process of doing it. And we don't really have a health system anymore in the US. I think we have a response system, um, because it just responds in a lot of way to traumas and issues instead of actually preventing them. Um, does that kind of ring true from an inside, or am I off the mark a little bit?
True, and that's one of the things that I'm an advocate for universal health care because universal health care has a preventative outlook on things. And we somewhat try to push that here, but not really. A lot of times it's trying to treat the issue as it comes. Preventative health care, and especially preventative mental health stuff, if we took care of things before they became an issue, like you said, it wouldn't be as bad. That's one of the big issues is people aren't getting what they need, and that's not just like physical, that's mental, that's a lot of things. And it's a cycle. That's kind of my point. And that is something we see, like a lot of people don't come in, they don't, or we do like very basic things. We don't actually look at people's mental health, or when people do need help, they don't have the resources they need to get what they need. Like if I didn't have insurance, there's no way I could afford my therapy and stuff like that. And it's just the whole thing. I agree. Sorry, my brain just cried out on me.
No, no. Well, welcome to our lives, folks. As brains fly out and shit just dies on us in our minds. Like I'll get halfway through a show and I'll forget what I'm saying. Or like halfway through a sentence and I'll forget what I'm saying. So that's our life. Like stay lovey, I guess. There's nothing that anybody is going to be doing on research for it for a while, so we're just going to have to be here. Um, and so we've got about 10 minutes left before the top of the hour. I'm not going to stay over today because today's a big day for me. And some family stuff that I will not go into on the live. Super exciting though. Um, and I'm really looking forward to the afternoon. So please bear with me, folks. You won't see me much this afternoon. There's a lot of good stuff going on in the background for me. And it's going to be a great day and afternoon for my family. Um, but like I'm nervous that I'm going to get where I'm supposed to be going this afternoon and forget what I'm like half the words that are supposed to be said because I'm going to just fart out partway through because it's going to be so much stressful, even though it's not like a stress inducing event. Like I'm just, um,
There are
I'm nervous
positive
that I'm just
stressors
going to
in life.
forget. Yeah, it's a
The health
positive
is
stressor.
stressful. So
Can you bring notes? Can you bring written notes? Is that okay?
Probably, but I don't know all the questions. There's supposed to be questions I'm going to get asked during the afternoon, and I'll be able to respond to them. And they're all going to be easy, but I'm a nervous test taker. Is more what it is I know all the things that I'm going to be asked anyways because I wouldn't have any reason not to. But it's just that underlying thought of being nervous about it
Mm.
for the afternoon. Um, and I
Your
think,
focus has to be about your focus. It's really important when you're taking tests, and that's where it's hard. Don't think about the result. Think about the content. And
yeah.
I mean, I know it's easy. It's like saying, "Don't think of a pink elephant. Don't think of a pink elephant. Don't think of it," and then that's what you end up seeing, right? But honestly, it's then try to just go back over the content in your head, like, and don't okay, like just content words, like what are they? Anyways, it's just that's what I used to do for exams. Like I was like, okay, stop thinking about, is it going to be a 70%, 80, 90? No, I'm just kidding. I couldn't have 70s. I would never tolerate that. But
I tell
related to
you,
what I
I'm a
said earlier.
perfectionist. Something I've noticed is if you're ever feeling nervous and you're thinking that you're going to be judged or you don't know the right thing to say, it's better to be honest. People tend to appreciate brutal
Yeah.
honesty to an extent. Don't like be mean.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that like for example, if I'm at work and someone asks me something, I'm like, oh, I don't know, let's Google it. Like I know how that probably sounds like your nurse is Googling something, but my point is people a lot of times will prefer one honesty. Just be
Sure.
honest. If you don't know the answer, if you don't have the context, be like, I don't have enough information to answer this. But what I can tell you is this, or try to segue into something different. Don't focus too much, get yourself caught up. If you find yourself struggling with an answer, just kind of segue away from it if you can, and just be honest. I don't have an answer. No answer is better than pretending you know something that you don't, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Be yourself.
Absolutely.
That's for sure. For sure. I
Yeah.
remember going to an interview being so nervous because the lady asked me the first thing I didn't want her to ask, like, so I looked, there's a 5-year gap in your resume. What did you do? I was like, well, do you really want to know the truth? And then I was like, okay, I have to be honest. Like, um, I had problems getting anyways, problems with I lost a child, then trying to have another baby, then having difficulties because my brother died, and it's like, and then you don't want to get into like these issues, but I mean, I just was so honest, and I ended up, I don't like to say the word honing it, but you're right, being honest and authentic, and either they're going to go for it or not. But in my case, I got the interview and I was like, okay, fine, and yeah, so.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell people more after, after today. I want to make sure that everything goes well first. But thank you for the kind words and advice from both of you. And so, Descent, before we get to the last couple minutes of the show, I want to give you the time here just to talk as freely as you want about yourself, about the work you do, where people can find you both on Substack and off Substack, how we can best support you, get you into at least a part-time job through your writing for now until we can all help you get to a full-time career at it. So let us know, where can people find you? Where can everyone here help?
So I write as of right now, my primary writing platform is here on Substack. You just go to scentinbloom.substack.com. It's literally my name.substack.com. I also, if you go onto my Substack, I have a link tree embedded on my profile where it has all my links. You can find me on there if you wanted to find me on other social media sites, whether that be like Blue Sky or whatever you use, because I don't necessarily trust that Substack will always be around. And I never want to lose contact with people if I don't have to. Ways that people can support me if they wanted to. Honestly, the biggest thing is just to kind of subscribe to the page. You don't have to do a paid subscription. I get it. Everyone's trying to survive in an economy that's getting worse. And I'm not mad at people if they don't do paid subscriptions. I never even did them at first. I only did it because I kept getting these weird pledge things when I first started. I'm like, what the hell is a pledge? And then I realized like, oh, they're trying to pay me for what? I also have what's called a Ko-fi or ko.fi, which is linked in my link tree. Just like $3 or $4, buy me a coffee, that kind of thing. And that's really it. But even my work, I didn't get in this to start getting paid. I don't care if I get paid. This is more of a passion project than anything. I let people support if they want to, but that's not the expectation. Because I feel like what I'm doing, what I'm saying, what I'm writing, what I'm spreading information, things that I'm giving to people, this information is too important. That's why, unlike some of the bigger creators you may see on this app, I will never put my work behind a paywall. You're never going to have to pay to read what I write because the information is too important. And that's my big thing. Like, I care so much about the things happening in this country, and education is one of the biggest things that matter. So I want to educate with my readers and share things and make sure that people have the information that they need to be able to stand up and fight, because my biggest thing is community. People can support me, of course, but I want community. I want people to work together, stay together, be a collective voice. I'm not just here to grift or whatever that word is. I don't really care. Pay me, don't pay me. I don't give a shit. Just join the movement. Like, stand up, fight back. Silence is complicity in a country where democracy falls every single day. And the only way we're going to get out of this is together. And I'm not just fighting for myself, but I'm fighting for everyone else and what I do. I, of course, talk about nursing and healthcare and things like that because I can speak to that from what I've been through. But I also talk about the general state of the country. I'm an analytic person. I'm autistic. I have ADHD. And I want to make sure that people are armed with the information they need to fight. I've had people come and say, like, what else are you doing? Like, I'm only one person, okay? Like, I can't go out here and beat Donald Trump up or something, but I do want people to know that they will always have a safe space on my platform to just talk, vent, learn. Community is my biggest thing. I don't really give a shit about the money. I just want to fight with other people who are like-minded.
That's amazing. And I'm glad we finally got to talk on the live. I'm glad we brought you on today. I'm glad you're able to join us. And as I said before, the invite is always open for you to come join us for these chronic shows on Mondays. I really enjoy getting to talk to people about this and spreading this information because, like you just said too, is knowledge is power, and community makes communal knowledge more powerful.
Mhm.
And the more we can spread and the more we can share, the more powerful we are together. Um, and so I really, really enjoyed this talk today. So I want to give you a moment to um, give your closing words too before I close us out for the morning. And although Dissent was very it's not about the money is very true. It's not about the money and it's not about like having to pay, but it is appreciated. And I know asking my audience, please support her how you can, even if it's a share and a restack and a subscribe and follow right now, just share and get that information out because the more people that see it, the more the message gets out there. And that's just as powerful sometimes as paying for things because that brings in other people and builds the communities larger. So, um, give you a second to close it out before I give our final word.
Well, honestly, Nick, I would like to thank you first of all because this is the second time we've been doing. I mean, last week same time, and I think we can. I really like, and I mean, talking about chronic illnesses because it. There's so much that goes around it, you know, and it. What I will bring it back to what you said, Descent, is that then it comes back to a sense of community and people listening to each other, not just really just being there for each other because do you know that if it is proven according to scientific research that when you do a good deed, then it kind of liberates some sort of a neurotransmitter that helps you alleviate either pain or like gives you pleasure. So and so it helps just to be a good person. The thing is how to set your limits, though. That's another thing. That could be another thing for our next episode: setting limits when you have chronic illnesses. But honestly, Descent, you sound like you're an. I mean, you are an amazing person, and I also want to thank. There's so many people in the chat. I've lost track, but also thank the people in the chat because it's you see names. I mean, people, those names are just not names. There's an entire human being behind those names, and it's great to know that they show up. So
Yeah.
yeah. So thank you, Nick, for creating this opportunity.
Well, thank you, Soso, for joining me and co-hosting with me again. Descent, thanks for coming on and joining us. And everyone, to the nearly 300 of you who are with us this morning, thank you all for being here and talking about or listening in on our talk about chronic illness and chronic conditions. We'll be back next week for more discussions on chronic illnesses every Monday. Please keep joining us, spread the word. And as I always say, is let's stop being sick of this shit, friends, and let's start doing this shit. So get out there, go make your community strong, and have a great day, y'all. Thanks, everyone.
It was nice.
Thank
Thanks, you
you.
guys.
Bye, Descent. Bye, Nick.
Thank
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.